All right, we're going to play this game again. Let's see. All right, Facebook, where am I? Ah, there we go. Okay. All right, so today I am talking about focus, and I talk about focus quite a lot. Oh, I see that broom is back. That's always in my focus. It doesn't matter how many times I move it, it always ends up back there. Okay, so I'm talking about focus, and the reason I'm talking about focus is because you can do all the belief busting, you can do all the like energy clearing that you want, but if you don't get yourself into the right focus, then you are basically missing everything that you are creating, right? So if I'm creating something and I'm looking out into the world for it to see evidence of it, then I need to be giving things meaning, right? I need to be focused on how it's happening, not how it's not happening. That's how we create stuckness. That's how we create feeling frustrated. And I mean, we all can go there, right? But the reality is you really need to, creating is not personal. Everybody does it. There is no like, it happens for them and not for me. That's not a thing. Creating is not personal. It's about being in the right focus. So some people would call this a structure, right? So the best way that I can, I guess, demonstrate this or to talk about this is to say, when you start a relationship, if all you ever focus on is what someone is not doing, then the chances of that ever becoming a full-fledged relationship are pretty bad. And this is not the same. I mean, this is the same. Manifesting is not different. So if you're focused on all the ways that it's not working or all the ways they're not contacting you, and what that means, then you are really focused on the opposite of what you want, right? So, right, if you started a new relationship and you went in focused on, well, they haven't called me yet and they haven't done this and this isn't happening and this shows me they don't like me, then, you know, you are not going to go very far in that relationship. And so it's really important to understand your focus. Also, other ways, other reasons I talk about focus is because when we're in that place of really wanting something, then we also increase the fear that we won't have it. And so you're actually, because the fear is a more heightened emotion often, unless you've really kind of learned to master the emotions of creation. And we're going to actually, if there's time, I'm going to take you through a conditioning exercise to kind of work with your subconscious mind so that you can actually start to master that emotion. And so if you don't, then you're going to find yourself, the heightened emotion is actually got a greater focus on what you don't have, what's not happening, what you can't create. Right? Because everything is created twice. So it's created in our mind, but then it moves through your emotions into reality. So if you are imagining it, so let's take Edison, for example. Apparently it took him like 100 tries to get the light bulb to work. So he imagined it, so he created it in his mind. Now, if each time it failed, emotionally he aligned with the failure, then he wouldn't be the inventor of light bulbs. Somebody else would have, or we'd still be using candles. So you really have to understand the importance that your emotions play, because we create it in our mind and then it moves through our emotions to come to show up in reality, right? And that's why we need to master the emotional aspect. And that is by far, in my experience at least, and with the people that I talk to, those are the things that throw us off, right? Our emotional reactions to things. Okay. So I want to demonstrate why focus is important. And this would have been really better if there's other people here, because I really like this example, but I'm just going to roll with it. So let's talk about dihydrogen monoxide. In its gaseous form, it's known to cause severe burns, and that's not all. It's this chemical, it's really caustic in that it corrodes and rusts metals. It's a major component of acid rain. It's present in excised tumors from terminal cancer patients. So, I mean, just by this description, we already kind of have a sense that this is probably not a great thing, right? It's responsible for the deaths of thousands of Americans every year. And the number one way it kills people is through accidental ingestion. Symptoms of ingestion include excessive sweating, frequent urination, and complete withdrawal from dihydrogen monoxide. For anyone who's developed a dependency, means certain death. And yet it's the presence of this chemical is confirmed in every tap, every river, every lake, reservoir, and pool across the globe. So based on these facts, if there were people here, I would ask you, do you think that we should continue living with it so close to us? Or should governments globally do something about it? So based on the focus of this argument, a lot of people might decide that, that this is dangerous and that governments should legislate it be banned. And then if I were to tell you that that's actually water, you would see that based on the focus of anything, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. It could be bad. So when we are looking at reconciling a relationship with someone, if you are focused on everything that's not happening and every way it can't work and every way, like everything that they are doing that is hurtful, then that's kind of where your focus is, right? So, I mean, this argument that I just gave, in 1997, Nathan Zoner managed to convince 46 out of 50 kids in his 9th grade class to vote to have dihydrogen monoxide banned by the government, and it's water. So I don't tell you this because I think we should ban water. I tell you this because it's a really good demonstration of how, depending on where you put your focus, is what pretty much what sorts of conclusions you're going to come to. And so, right, like if we focus on everything bad about water, then, you know, we're having half the grade 9 class in some school ask the government to ban it, right? And so if you're focusing on everything that's not working, then this is sort of creating your experience, which you then express through your subconscious, and then you begin to push people away, right? So when we're coming from this place of limitation, we're pushing people away. And so, creating will start to feel like you're failing or you're pushing a boulder uphill if you really aren't able to get your focus in the right way. And so, yeah, this is, oh, hi, Serena. Happy Thursday. Glad you're here. So yeah, I read that article and thought that that's a really excellent way to demonstrate just really the power of what we focus on to create the conclusions that we draw. And so a lot of times a dysfunctional focus happens because we want to create something to resolve a sense of not enough at some level or another. There's about 6 levels of not enough. And I mean, oh, hi, Hetty. I'm glad you're here. It says you're a Facebook user, so I'm glad you said your name. So when we feel we're not enough, and let's be honest, we don't like to admit this, but everybody feels this at some level or another. It's part of being human. So I think it's Lester Levinson, but don't quote me because I have like a lot of random facts in my head and I can usually not always connect them to who they should belong to, but I think it's Lester Levinson who basically said, we came into this world to become a body, to learn that we're actually not a body. And so the limitations that we conclude from childhood are what cause us to get this sense that we're not good enough in some way. And so the not good enough levels are varying, as I said. So there's, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't belong. I'm not perfect. I'm not capable, and I'm not significant. And so people will create in order to, I'll be good enough if this person comes back into the relationship. I'll be worthy if they come back into the relationship. People will act out of, I don't belong often shows up like as a fear of rejection, right? So we will often unconsciously tailor and move our behavior because we have this unconscious focus on, I don't belong, I'm afraid I'll be rejected, or I'm not going to take this action, I'm not going to do this thing because I'm not perfect, or I'm not capable. So that's a big one for me. I spent a lot of years, this is why I have so many random facts in my head. My unconscious coping mechanism is to gather information, right? So I'm not significant. These are people that have this need to be seen and be something in the world to prove to themselves that they're not significant or that they are significant. And so I don't say these really to beat you down. I say it because successfully moving from limitation into our true nature as limitless beings is to really know thyself. All religious, all mystical and esoteric teachings, they all teach us to know thyself. And that means to understand your unconscious behaviors, to understand what your limiting stories are so that you can overcome them, because you are truly pure creative energy. And when we came into this body, as children, things happened that didn't feel good. And so even before we had language, this emotion came up inside of us. And so we came to a conclusion. And then once we had language, the emotion came up again and we went, ooh, and we added words to it. And so this is our resistance. And it was really just as we needed to become limited in order to become human. And so I talk about really understanding what your version of not enough is, because that is how you can overcome it. So I know that mine is not that sense of that little story of not being capable, so that when it comes up, I can go, and then overcome that. And often there's going to be an emotion with it. So I'm going to do the emotion work. And so, yeah. That when you get into those dysfunctional focuses, they're going to be accompanied by some variation of these limitations. And so dysfunctional ways of creating. And so the reason, as I mentioned, because you guys didn't catch the beginning, so in case you missed this part, I'm talking about dysfunctional ways or dysfunctional focus. Because if you are creating from one of these places, these dysfunctional focuses, you're actually creating from a space of limitation, right? So I need to prove that I'm this thing. I need the relationship to be back so that I can be safe, so that I can be okay, so that I'm worthy. No, you're already worthy. You can't be any more worthy or any less worthy. I know I heard once about the best analogy for this is you couldn't line up a bunch of babies and say, well, that one's good enough and that one's not good enough and that one's can you imagine? So you have to understand that it's just all these stories that we pick up because we begin to see ourselves through other people's eyes. But the power in creation is that we no longer see ourselves in other people's eyes. And this is why I talk about really, like, when you create, you're not looking outside of yourself for permission or for confirmation that it's happening. You're recognizing, I've decided. And so everything from there, you're going to tailor your meanings, you're going to align your emotions, and you're going to catch the stories that tell you you're not. And so the first way that we create from a dysfunctional focus, and this one's quite common, is that we feel like we need to resolve all these beliefs before we can have it. To be quite frank, that's a bunch of BS. And all it does is cause you to shift your focus away from creating onto fixing. Now I need to fix myself. I need to be better so I can have it. No, you don't. You're already enough. You just have to believe it. And so I'm not saying don't do, like, the belief work and the affirmations, but don't feel like you need to do those before you can have it. That's the issue, right? So you see how if I feel like, ooh, I've got these beliefs in me and they don't allow me to have it, so I need to do all this work first. Well, where is your focus? Is your focus on what you can create, or is your focus on some way that you're broken and you need to be fixed? So, you do, if you're doing belief work or you're doing something, you're doing it from that structure. You're noticing this belief is coming up. I have this belief. I can still create without fixing it. Because I can promise you, the first time that I manifested my relationship back, I'd done zero work on myself. I white knuckled my way through. I was like, oops, this does not feel like, this doesn't feel like the version of me that has it. And I I had tools and I moved myself back in. So you don't need to do the belief work so that you can have it. It might make it easier for you to align yourself, but it's not necessary for you to have it. So that is basically where, that's the first dysfunctional way of focusing, is that I don't have the right beliefs for it. No, that's BS. Beliefs are constantly changing. I can talk to my husband and my belief will change. I can talk to my daughter and my belief will change. They're changing in conversation. They're changing as we go throughout the day. Your beliefs are never fixed. They're constantly moving and changing. And if you want to understand what your beliefs are, look at your life. Look at the results of your life, and pay attention to the feelings that you're having, because these are the things that are going to tell you, oh, this belief structure has popped up. And they're not bad because they served you at some point in your life. They kept you safe when you were vulnerable. Most likely as a child, that's when we are our most vulnerable. And so by believing I'm not big enough to do it, then you don't break the dish, or you don't get in trouble, or whatever it is. And so basically, but it doesn't serve you now if you want to create something. And so you don't need to go in and fix it first. You just need to know, as you create, it's going to come up. Notice it then and do something about it then. Because otherwise you're in I need to fix myself. And then the overall message that you are sending to your unconscious mind is, I'm not good enough to have it, which is why we don't want to do that. So, because our unconscious is listening not just to the words and seeing the actions, it's noticing what we're doing. If I'm not, like, the best way to overcome fear is not to avoid it. Because then you just reinforce, right, that you can't have it. So anyway, I digress. That one gets me a little hot because I see a lot of people get stuck in this idea that they need to fix themselves first. Once they're fixed, once they're good enough, then they can have it. No, so an example I heard is, so for Lady Gaga, apparently cries before she goes on stage because she doesn't feel good enough to do what she does. The difference is, can you imagine if she was like, I need to do a lot of belief work before I can believe in myself? No, she just doesn't let it stop her. She moves through the resistance. Manifesting and confidence are always about moving through tension without needing to alleviate it, right? So if you think about, so circumstances pop up and you freak out, that's not moving through tension. That's getting pulled in by tension. So if I am with confidence, say I'm walking through a restaurant and I knock some dishes on the floor. If I'm not confident, I'm going to either skitter away or embarrassed, pick them up and like, sorry. Or if I'm confident, I'm going to recognize, yeah, people knock things over. I'm going to maybe pick them up, or I'm going to keep walking, or I'm going to do whatever, but I'm not going to be rattled. So both things require you to begin to develop that internal calm. And that's why manifesting is confidence, right? I just go in with confidence because I have the ability to move through the tension. The tension doesn't pull me. So I can see already I'm going to go over time. So we will do the unconscious conditioning because, yeah. So anyway. So the second way, and I'm 100% guilty of this one, is reaction. And so again, this one, there are certain ways I'm guilty of this, and then other ways I'm not. So this one, when I was manifesting my relationship, I was able more easily than some of the other things that I'm working on now. And some of it is, like I've talked before, I had more of an unconscious competence, I guess. So I had certain coping mechanisms or whatever, or tools that I pulled in. And so reaction. So a good example of this is, I'll tell a little personal story. So when I was, or maybe that one actually fits a different one. So, all right, let's say your pants feel a little tight. So you don't like the way that feels. You change your eating and you go to the gym and to create a better body. And then once you feel good, you stop because there's no more tension, right? So you're no longer wanting to create this thing. So you slip back into your old patterns. So this is the number one reason that people create relationships and then lose it, because they're creating from an I'm not good enough. My weight's not good enough. Focus. So then as soon as their weight is good enough, they stop. They're not working out because they love to work out, right? So I hope you can see just the nuanced difference between those two things. So people will, from a reaction place, my relationship isn't going well, so I'm going to do all of these things. And then as my relationship gets better, I relax, I sit back, and the next thing you know, my relationship's blown up again because I still have all these unconscious sabotaging patterns, and the tension is gone. I didn't create my relationship because I just want my relationship. I created my relationship because I needed it to feel better. I needed it to be enough or worthy or whatever. And so there's these really subtle nuances that you might get there. And this is what I did. I absolutely, like I said, I white-knuckled emotional alignment all the way there. And then once I was there, I sort of relaxed and I have a story of F this relationship when it's not going my way. That's what was modeled for me as a child. So I'm aware of this, and I would let those angry thoughts run like, this isn't working. I don't even know why I'm in this relationship anymore. And the thoughts were so familiar to me that they would run a while, and I would really buy into these stories, and then bang, my relationship fell apart. And it's because I was creating from a place of reaction. So I don't let myself do that anymore because I recognize, ooh, this is my story. And actually, I don't need my relationship. So another way that I fixed it in is I actually don't need my relationship to feel okay. So after the last few times that it happened, I was kind of like, whatever, okay. I know I'm the best. And it was just really that, right? That I know who I am. I'm not limited. I know I create. And I'm not, again, I'm going to say that I'm like this in every area of my life, but it's a work in progress. I understand that we kind of can all slip in and out of this. So then another way is limitation. So this one I'm 100% guilty of with something I'm actually creating right now. And so I have to catch myself because it's an unconscious sabotaging pattern. So it's when you want more than you'll actually allow yourself to have. So for example, I'll use, because we're talking relationships. So maybe I want to be in a relationship and I want there to be romance, but there's no romance. But I'll just accept the relationship. As long as I have the relationship, I'm okay. Right? And so that just takes all the energy out of the romance. You've really let all the tension out of creating romance. I'm guaranteed you're probably, because you want romance, you're really noticing how you don't have romance. So you're continuing to create no romance, but you have your relationship, right? So do you see how you've created what you want, but you've created the limited version of it? And so, it's like blowing up a balloon, but feeling like, ooh, this balloon's too big. So you pop it and it just kind of goes, and you still have the balloon in your hand, but it's kind of that wizened, wrinkly, meh, version of it. So that is another way. So really look at what you're creating and what you want, right? I've talked about how some people will say, well, they want their partner home. Well, home is not an end result, because I can guarantee you, if they came home exactly the way it is, you would not be happy. So no, home is not the focus. That's a limitation. It's actually a byproduct of the focus. The focus is a connected relationship. The focus is a romance, a passionate romance. When I was creating, I didn't create, I want my husband home. No, I wrote down, I still have it somewhere. I just hid it in between the pages of a book so that I couldn't really obsess about it. But I wrote down, my husband and I have a passionate relationship, or a passionate something connection. I don't even remember what it is. But that was what I had, and that was what I was focused on creating. Not having him home, because I can guarantee you, there are times I've had him home back then I didn't want him home because I was mad, or he was whatever. I wasn't able to shift my focus to see his good points. I was focused on all the negative stuff, like with the water analogy I talked about at the beginning. And so, spoiler alert to anyone who's here and go watch at the beginning. Sorry. Anyway, so the fourth way that we get into a dysfunctional focus, right, is other people's opinions. And so this one can be a bit dangerous. So in a couple ways. First of all, and you know who you are, and I love you when I say this, but stop asking if it's possible, because now you're creating from someone else's opinion. You have to know in your core. And if you don't know yet, you need to continue. You need to find that space, right? You don't need to fix yourself. You need to find that emotional space where you feel into what it would be like. And then you need to constantly realign with that. And so another way that other people's opinions I see trip people up, and this is a big one, and this is not going to be popular with some people, and I don't care because I see it derailing a lot of people a lot of times, is that they go off what other people say. So I went to see a psychic and they said this: you create, only you create your life. Sorry, the psychic is reading your energy right now, and you decide whether or not you're going to carry that into the future or whether you're going to let it go and create what you want. Other people will, again, go see an energy worker or a psychic and say they want to know what's going on with their partner. Stop doing that. Please stop doing that. And because you're sabotaging your work. So if you create, every time you go and ask someone, what's happening with my partner, you're in essence giving your power away. You no longer create. You've moved into, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? No, you create. Creating is about deciding and then giving everything meaning, no meaning or good meaning. It's a blessing or a blessing in disguise. I had lots of terrible things happen while I was creating my relationship. And every single one of them, I had to determine, no, this is a stone on the path. Some way, this is going to lead me to where I'm where I'm going or something that I'm creating. And every time it did, because I never gave the power away to someone else. No one creates my life but me. And that's why I create quickly. No one creates my life but me. I don't ask someone to tell me, is it working yet? I don't listen to someone else when they say, well, this is your problem. No, it's not. I decide what my problem is. I mean, okay, let me back that up a bit. I have a coach and I listen to her, but she's always guiding me or giving me tips to guide myself. And I'm going to tell you, if this doesn't align for you, then you do what you want to do because you create your life. But recognize that every time you look outside of you to see if it's working, or you ask someone to give you information if it's working, you are actually sending a message to your unconscious that you don't create. And if there's any belief that you need to have to create quickly and without a lot of bumps, it's that you are a creator. It is that you create your life. So if you're going to give the power to someone else, recognize you're extending your journey. So I'd think twice about that. Or at least, and I mean, okay, let me also say, I'm not saying don't go see your energy people. Don't go see your psychics. Yeah, but recognize this is your current energy they are giving you. And don't ask them to give you evidence it's working, because that is when you're putting creation outside of yourself and you're sending a message to your unconscious mind that you don't actually create, right? Is it working? Is it working? Is the question you're actually asking. And so, I mean, I use tarot cards. I read tarot cards. I love them. I really am into astrology and all of that, even though I recognize only I create. So sometimes when I'm in a low point, I will look and see, oh yes, this is where my energy is. And then I decide where I want to go. And that's what you need to do. Manifesting is always about making a decision and then moving through the tension. So other ways that people give their power away or create from a dysfunctional focus is taking other people's opinion, right? About not just whether it's possible, but like worrying about what anybody else thinks about what you're doing. And so if you're at risk of this, because I was when I first started, so I don't mean to say this as a belittling or a demeaning thing, but to recognize that if you're at risk of this, say as little as possible. And make sure, like, choreograph your words. So people would ask, you know, how is everything between you and Morley? And I would say, it's great. I'm really great. He's good. He's at work. Like, I would say as little as possible, but really great. So now they can paint their own picture of really great. And they're going to fill in their own blanks based on really great. Not, well, we're working on it, or he's coming back, or all of those things are basically kind of creating more of the same. So don't do that. Just say as little as possible, but where you paint a picture that people can be, because they're going to fill in their own blanks no matter what you say. So give them as few details as possible, right? I'm great. He's good. He's doing this. And then leave it at that. Because now you're putting out into the world the focus of what you're actually creating. And people are assuming that things are getting better between you. And so, right, like, we give things energy. So now you're giving the right focus energy, not we're working on it and now you're just giving energy to the current situation. So, and not talking about it also. You don't necessarily want to just shy away from from talking about it either, because think of the unconscious message that you're giving yourself, like that there's some sort of shame in this, or that you might fail, or like these are all things to notice, because if it feels bad, you're in a limited perspective. So indirectness. So this, I think, talking about like, I want so-and-so home. They need to be home before we can have a close connected relationship. No, they don't. Most relationships that end up with home started as a close connected relationship. I know that I certainly wouldn't have moved in with my husband if we hadn't already had a close connected relationship before we moved in together. And I can definitely say that we lived together and our relationship was not close. It was not connected. It was more like a war zone. So you want to pay attention to just go directly to what it is you want. What is it that you want? Right? So if I want a happy, connected family, but then I'm also putting a bunch of conditions in, like micromanaging the way it has to happen, right? So I want a close, connected family, but we can only have this if like little Jimmy is a straight A student and little Susie has lots of friends. So like now your energy is all over the place. The thing is, if you create something like a close, connected family, and you are noticing all the ways that that's happening and not fixating on all the ways you don't have it, then all those other things that you want for Lizzie and Jimmy, they become a byproduct of that. You can add those in afterwards, and you're not dispersing your energy everywhere. So creating by default. This is the last one, and most of us know this because this is unconscious creation. The thing about it is, if you're not creating, you're going to get pulled into other people's fields, and you're going to get pulled in by their tension. And anybody who's creating reconciliation in their relationship, if they're trying to create reconnection, it's because at some point you're not creating either. Well, we all started off this way by not creating and getting pulled in, just kind of being pulled wherever life takes us, right? And even while you're creating, if you are looking at what other people are doing and saying as evidence that it's working for you, you're creating by default. Oh, it's so-and-so said this, or they're doing this, or they're acting this way, so it's not working. Well, all of a sudden, even if it was working, you just put it in stop. And so it's important to recognize when you're creating by default. And so this is where I'm going to tell a personal story. So when I was creating, I'm not going to say that it was easy. It was not just like smooth sailing. I had a lot of unconscious beliefs and emotional bleh that I needed to work through. And so my husband showed up on my doorstep on Christmas Eve, like 5 weeks after I started this work. It was not an easy ride afterwards because, like I said, I was doing all the things that I am telling you not to do now, all of them. And so, but this one I didn't do. At least this one I did leading up, and sometimes can still get caught doing now, but I did not create by default. So for example, he had already shown up at our doorstep. Things were kind of moving together, but there was still like it was kind of touchy. Like I still had a lot of like history of like painful things running through my mind. And so was kind of like oscillating between it's mine, it's not, it's mine, it's not. And so we had a really good evening. And we were sitting having a conversation in the kitchen. And even though in my mind, I'm thinking it's working, it's great, this is, it's happening. And then, I would like, as far as I was concerned, everything was moving full steam ahead. But then in the middle of a really nice conversation, he says, we still need to get a divorce. We still need to separate because we've just hurt one another too badly. Now, if in that moment I had said, it's not working, then I wouldn't be here talking to you about this right now. I didn't do that. I just kind of said, to him. And then in my mind was doing the equivalent of like, la, 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 right? I'm not taking what he's saying. And it's not because I'm controlling him. It's because, no, I'm creating this. So I needed to, and I could feel like my face heating up and the like energy rising up in my body. And so I just basically like calmed myself and continued on and just really was like, no, I'm creating this. And then just continued on. I didn't need to say anything to him because I don't create by default, right? So creating by default is taking something in reality. You might be seeing good results. Something pops up in reality because you haven't necessarily worked through all your old stuff, and that's fine. Just work on it as you go. You don't need to clean it up ahead of you. Half the time, you don't even know what it is. So it's wasted effort. But just clean it up as you go. But don't look at what's happening and go, I can't have it. Because now you've just created that. So now you're counter creating, right? And you can see how that's going to draw the process out a lot longer, and you're going to get that oscillation. And so, like I said before, manifesting and confidence both need tension, and they're both about moving calmly through tension without needing it to end so you can be okay, right? People that run into battle and are brave, it's not because they needed the battle to go away so that they could run into it. It's because, like, you don't get over fear by getting rid of fear or avoiding fear. You get over fear by learning the emotional tools to move through that tension. And those are all the things that I did and still do. And when things I'm creating now that are unfamiliar for me and I catch myself in a limited perspective, it's important to take the time then or as soon as possible to use some sort of tool to move your emotions, get them back into alignment, because you can do all the belief work in the world, but you are never going to think higher than you feel. So if I feel low, any positive thinking that I do, it's only going to bring me so far, because you're never going to think more or better than you feel. And it's just how it works. And I mean, a lot of your limitations were created in you long before you had verbal language. And that's why certain belief work doesn't work that well for some people. For some people it does, and some people it doesn't. And the people that it doesn't, and so I'm one of those people that, yeah, it's really hit and miss. I've done some like traditional belief work and found, because it creates parallel pathways and now they're in competition, that when it gets stressful, guess which one you're going to? You're going to revert to the original one. And so that's why it's important to also have the ability to manage the emotions, because the emotions, all of your originating beliefs before you had language, are emotional experiences. And so those are anchoring the beliefs. And so, okay. Yeah, I mentioned all these orientations, like these focus, the way that you could be focusing, or how you're creating, maybe from a place that's going to either let the tension out, or it's going to have no tension, or you're focused on the wrong things, because not because I want you to feel bad, but because I want you to be successful, because I want you to recognize that these are like sabotaging assumptions about yourself. And so the best way to know is to really feel in, like to ask yourself. So bring into your mind right now what it is that you're creating. And so now I'm going to ask you, why do you want it? And so for you people here, I'm going to ask you, why do you want it? So you don't have to tell me what you're creating, or you can share that if you want, but tell me, why do you want it? I hate this lag. Okay, if you don't want to share, that's okay too. But ideally, you want to notice what it is. Because if, right, like my life will be easier, my life will be better, I want money so I can travel, or I want, right, like if the end goal is traveling, but you feel like you need money, then, oh, sure. So I want to know what it is you're creating. And I know your answer, what your answer is going to be, Angie. But I'm asking, so to find out if you're creating from a limited focus, right? All right. So thank you for sharing, Hetty. Okay. So Angie, if I'm asking, so bring into your mind what you're creating, and then I want to know why. Ask yourself, why am I creating it? And I know that your answer is probably going to be in the right alignment. So I want you to share, and then I'm going to tell you what the alignment should be. And because I'm going to post this on YouTube, Hetty, I'm not gonna read yours out loud because it seems like an invasion of privacy. All right. So if your answer is, why am I creating it, is anything other than because I love it, then you're creating from one of those limited perspectives. So, right. So and without reading it, maybe I did read it out loud. Sorry, I got swept away in the moment. So if we're creating it because of something, then we're trying to fix something, right? So yeah, I think I've talked to you about this, Angie. That I know you're creating from the right space, but I also worked with you I know. I worked with you for long enough and have talked to you that I know you're in the right focus. Right. And that is why we talk about like loving your life exactly the way it is and being willing not to have your thing. Because if you're creating to fix something, then you're creating from a problem focus. Right. And so what's that saying, Angie? Nothing to fix, no problems to solve. No, if you are unlimited, nothing to fix, no problems to solve. And so assuming that anything is other than that, it's like a problem to solve. It's a fear, right? And so the issue with that is now you're equally focused on the thing that you fear, the reason that you're creating it, the reason, the fixing that you want to do. And so that is always why I say embrace your yeah, that's right. Nothing to do, solve, fix, or heal. Exactly. Right? When you are unlimited, you don't have any problems to solve. That's a totally limited thing. And so, and that's what, when there's a problem to solve, that's when we move into like pulling up our resistance, and it's protection. And so if you really just recognize that you're actually perfect and none of those things are going to happen, right? So you can see I'm creating so that I don't fill in the blank. And so the idea that you even would is a limited perspective. It's a fear, and you're giving that fear energy. And you're because it's a heightened emotion, fear, you're giving it more energy than you are your creation. And that's really the issue when we're in the wrong focus, right? Our energy is going to the wrong thing. And that's why I get so heated about some of these things. So we're going to do a little bit of conditioning work because, and I've talked about this. Yeah, absolutely. It only gets better and better. And so we don't want to feed our limitations. We don't want to feed the unconscious limitations that we're carrying. So I've talked a little bit about this on my YouTube channel. I had a tool, but we're going to actually go through this. So if you want to play along, I'll give you a couple of I'll pause, and since I'm way over time as usual. So bring into mind what it is that you want. So just get really comfortable and close your eyes, and I want you to bring up into your mind what it is that you're creating, as if you have it, and like really feel into it. Feel into create that thing. You've already got it. It's yours. Really feel into it. And so once you have the emotion, we're going to set an anchor. You're going to grasp your wrist. Sometimes I tell people to put their tongue on the roof of their mouth. You can pull your ear. It doesn't matter what you do, but you're going to condition your unconscious from the level of your physiology. So if you have an anchor, right? So you're going to move in You're going to feel into having it, and you're going to grasp your wrist. And for just a minute, you're really going to enjoy feeling that it's yours, what that actually feels like to have it. You don't need to solve it as a problem. It's yours. You already have it. You don't have to wait for it. And just imagine, like, what are you doing? Who are you with? How do you feel? Like, just really, really move into that space. And now you can let your anchor go. You can set an anchor really quickly. So if you were able to touch that emotion, now when you move out of that emotion, and test this, when you move out of that emotion, you'll be able to pull in your anchor. And if you quieten yourself for a second, your body's going to move into that feeling. And so this is the very first tool I ever learned. And I didn't learn it to manifest. I learned it because my anxiety was so bad, because my entire life was falling apart. And so I used this just to get calm. But then I discovered what an amazing tool it was to help me move through those moments so that I didn't get caught and I didn't end up creating by default. And so I would suggest, if you have time, you can reset your anchor to really strengthen it. So you want to kind of move into a place. I often suggest people use it. When in my program, I suggest they use it in a very specific way. But for the sake of this, because it's my program is very targeted per person, and I can't really do that in a group setting. So we're going to go pretty general. But as long as you have that good feeling, then that is the place of creation for you, that feeling. So everything that you do from that place, you are creating success. You're going to be successful. And every time you step out of that feeling, now you're stepping kind of into that sense of limitation. And so meditate or do whatever you need to do. Just get really calm and like move into that feeling of having it, and reset your anchor a couple of times to strengthen it. And then use the anchor. Use the anchor when you feel stress. Use the anchor when you feel fear. And it's going to help you begin, because you've now basically done some unconscious conditioning. You've conditioned, right? We've talked about how like 80% of your unconscious mind is actually your body. It's taking in information from the environment that you are not conscious of unless you move your awareness there. So you've now you've conditioned the physical part of your unconscious mind to move into emotional alignment with what you have. All right. So, yeah. If you have any questions, and I'm gonna have to sit here and wait because of this lag, but if you have any questions, let me know and I will answer them before I go. Okay, I'm gonna guess that you guys are good. Thanks, Angie. You're incredible too. Yeah, so this is really great. This had this because I actively used it, because I didn't prioritize what I was creating over how I felt. Like I said, I kind of stumbled into creating easily, because prior to ever really grasping more than just like some really cool energy tricks that I kind of learned before I learned how to manifest a relationship back together, I prioritized how I felt. I was sick and freaking tired of feeling anxious and stressed and not having control of my emotions. And so because I prioritized that, creating was much easier for me. And so in my opinion, if you want the fast track to creating, it's two things. Prioritize your emotional condition, right? Everybody, I think Abraham Hicks talks about this, like getting into alignment. Pretty much all of them, they all talk about this. Feeling is the secret, blah, 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 whatever. But I did that, and then I really set my focus on everything is taking me there. Everything means I'm getting there somehow. It didn't matter what it was. I was telling a story that this is a path on a step on the path. Everything is a gift or a gift in disguise, and you will get there so much faster. And it will just literally be the only work you will have to do is noticing when you're out of alignment, noticing when you're telling the opposite story. Okay, well, I hope you have a really fantastic Thursday. And for everybody in the Facebook group, this isn't for you, but people in YouTube that are watching this, this is the last Thursday live that I'm going to post on YouTube. I've been a bit absent kind of everywhere because I'm doing some restructuring and creating some really cool things. And that's right, just feel good. I'm creating some cool things to kind of help you guys move through this with a lot more ease. And so some of the changes I'm making is that these lives are only going to be available in the Facebook group and the membership site that's kind of happening. So yeah, have a really super fantastic Friday or Thursday. Yikes, I need it to be the end of the week apparently. So have a really great Thursday, and I will be back next week. And if, in case you forgot, live like it's impossible for you to fail, and then it's yours.